Here's 50,000 in cash. Make sure I get everything, my stepbrother Kyle whispered, sliding a thick manila envelope across the mahogany table in what he thought was an empty law office. The executor, Brennan, picked up the envelope with steady hands, his expression unreadable in the dim light of the after-hours meeting. Did Kyle really think he was the first greedy relative to try bribing an executor, or was he just too arrogant to consider the consequences? That's a substantial amount, Harold said evenly, thumbing through the bills. You understand what you're asking me to do? I'm asking you to do what's right. Kyle leaned back in his chair, designer suit stretching across his gym-built frame. My stepmother was clearly manipulated in her final days. That nurse, Jamie, she poisoned Mom's mind against me, made her change the will. I almost laughed from my position in the FBI surveillance van parked across the street. The only poison in my mother's life had been Kyle himself. The will seems quite clear, Harold noted. Your stepmother left the bulk of her estate to her biological daughter, Jamie. You received a generous trust fund of $200,000. Generous? Kyle scoffed. That's nothing compared to the $12 million she left Jamie. That money should be split equally. I was her son for 15 years. Stepson, Harold corrected mildly. She never made that distinction when she was alive, Kyle lied smoothly. My mother had made that distinction constantly, especially after Kyle had stolen from her repeatedly throughout his 20s. Harold set down the envelope. What exactly are you proposing? Kyle pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. I need you to say you found a more recent will. This one. It leaves everything split 60 to 40, 60% to me as the older child, 40 to Jamie. You want me to submit a forged will to probate court? Not forged, Kyle said quickly. Just discovered. Maybe it was misfiled. Maybe Mom gave it to you privately and you forgot. These things happen. And the 50,000? A consultation fee, Kyle smiled. For your troubles. There's another 100,000 after probate clears. Harold studied the forged will. From the van, I could see it on one of our monitors. Kyle had done a decent job copying Mom's handwriting, but he'd made crucial errors that any forensic analyst would catch. Tell me, Harold said conversationally, how did you create this? The handwriting is quite good. Kyle preened at the compliment. I had access to years of her letters and cards, practiced for months. The hardest part was aging the paper. I had to order special stock from the same company her lawyer used. Impressive. And the witnesses? Friends of mine. They'll swear they saw her sign it. What about the notary seal? Kyle reached into his pocket and pulled out a stamp. Amazing what you can buy online these days. In the van, Agent Sarah Mitchell shook her head. He's literally confessing to every element of fraud. This is beautiful. Harold leaned forward. I need you to write down exactly what you want me to do, step by step. I can't afford any misunderstandings. Smart, Kyle approved, pulling out a legal pad. Okay, so first, you'll wait 2 weeks, then claim you found this will in Mom's safety deposit box. For 20 minutes, Kyle detailed the entire fraud scheme in his own handwriting. How Harold should present the forged will, what lies to tell the court, how to handle objections from me, even how to launder the bribe money through offshore accounts. This is very thorough, Harold said when Kyle finished. You've thought of everything. I've been planning this since Mom first got sick, Kyle admitted. I knew she'd try to cut me out. She always favored Jamie. I wonder why, Harold murmured, then stood up. I think we have a deal, Mr. Morrison. Kyle stood as well, extending his hand. Partners? Not quite. Harold reached under his suit jacket and pulled out his FBI badge. Special Agent Harold Brennan, you're under arrest for attempted bribery, conspiracy to commit fraud, and forgery. Kyle's face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, panic. This is entrapment. No, sir. You approached the executor 2 weeks ago with this scheme. We simply replaced him with an agent. Everything you've done tonight was of your own free will. The door burst open and 4 more agents entered. I followed them in, unable to resist seeing Kyle's face when he realized I'd been watching everything. Jamie? His voice cracked. You set me up? I protected Mom's wishes, I said calmly. Just like I protected her from you when she was alive. You turned me into the FBI, your own brother. Stepbrother, I corrected, echoing Harold. And yes, the moment Mr. Brennan told me about your bribery attempt, I knew we needed law enforcement. The real Harold Brennan entered then, a silver-haired gentleman who'd been my mother's executor for 20 years. Kyle, he said sadly, your stepmother loved you despite everything. That trust fund was her way of giving you one last chance. And this is what you do. Shut up, old man, Kyle snarled, then turned to me. You think you've won? I'll fight this. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated Mom, turned her against me. Like when I manipulated her into pressing charges when you stole her jewelry, I asked. Or when I manipulated her into changing the locks after you broke in looking for money? Or when I manipulated her into getting a restraining order after you threatened her? Agent Mitchell pulled out an evidence bag containing the forged will, the notary stamp, and Kyle's written instructions. Mr. Morrison, you've provided us with everything we need for a federal conviction. The bribery alone carries up to 15 years. I want a lawyer, Kyle said. Absolutely, you're right, Agent Brennan agreed. Though you should know your two witness friends were arrested an hour ago. They already agreed to testify against you in exchange for leniency. Kyle's shoulders slumped. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. She wasn't even your real mother for the first 10 years of your life. I was her son longer. No, I said quietly. You were her burden longer. There's a difference. After they left, I sat in the empty law office with the real Mr. Brennan. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me exhausted and sad. Your mother would be proud, he said gently. She always worried about what Kyle might do after she was gone. She tried so hard with him, I said. Even after everything he put her through, she still left him $200,000. Do you know what she told me when she made that decision? What's that? She said, maybe if he has enough to start fresh, he won't try to take yours. She knew he'd come after the rest. She just hoped he wouldn't. Mr. Brennan pulled out a letter from his briefcase. She left this for you, with instructions to give it to you only if Kyle tried to contest or steal the inheritance. I recognized Mom's handwriting immediately. My dearest Jamie, if you're reading this, then Kyle has done exactly what I feared he would. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, but not surprised. Kyle has always believed he's entitled to things he hasn't earned, love he hasn't given, money he hasn't worked for. You were 10 when I married Kyle's father and 11 when he died. Kyle was 13 and already showing signs of the man he'd become, selfish, manipulative, greedy. You were the unexpected gift in that marriage. When Kyle's father died, I could have walked away from both of you. Kyle was his father's son from a previous marriage. I had no legal obligation to him. But you'd already lost one mother. I couldn't bear to have you lose another. So I adopted you and tried to raise Kyle right. You flourished. Kyle floundered. You gave love. Kyle took it. You protected me. Kyle exploited me. The difference between 200,000 and 12 million isn't about money, it's about trust. I trust you to use that money wisely to help others to build something meaningful. Kyle would spend it on cars and parties and pyramid schemes, just like he spent everything else I ever gave him. Don't feel guilty for protecting what I've left you. Kyle made his choices. Every theft, every lie, every manipulative act, those were choices. You made different choices. You chose to be my daughter in every way that mattered. The money is yours, earned through love and loyalty and all those nights you spent by my bedside during chemo. Use it well, live fully, and know that biology never mattered to me. You were always my real daughter. All my love, Mom. I wiped away tears, carefully folding the letter. Outside, I could hear Agent Mitchell coordinating with the prosecutor's office. Kyle would likely take a plea deal, serve a few years, and emerge still convinced he was the victim. What will you do now? Mr. Brennan asked. First, I'm going to follow through on Mom's charitable bequests, I said. The Cancer Research Foundation, the Scholarship Fund for Nursing Students, the shelter donation. Then, I paused, thinking. I'm going to start a legal aid fund for elderly people dealing with financial exploitation by family members. Mom would have liked that. She would have loved it, he agreed. Over the next few months, the case against Kyle proceeded swiftly. His friends flipped immediately, testifying about how Kyle had coached them on what to say. The forensic document examiner confirmed the will was forged. Kyle's lawyer tried to argue entrapment, but the judge wasn't sympathetic. Approaching someone with a bribe wasn't protected behavior. Kyle eventually pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted bribery of a federal agent. Harold's FBI status elevated the charges. He got 7 years in federal prison, plus restitution and fines that wiped out most of the trust fund Mom had left him. At the sentencing, Kyle gave a long speech about how he'd been manipulated, how unfair life had been, how he deserved more. The judge cut him off mid-rant. "Mr. Morrison," she said sternly, "you had a mother who loved you despite your repeated betrayals. She left you $200,000, more than most people see in a lifetime. Your response was to commit multiple felonies trying to steal more. The only unfairness here is what you put your family through." Kyle was led away in shackles, still muttering about injustice. "I used part of Mom's inheritance to ensure the real Harold Brennan had excellent security for the rest of the probate process. I donated Kyle's forfeited trust fund to the nursing home where Mom had spent her final months. They used it to upgrade their facilities and provide free care for patients whose families couldn't afford it. The legal aid fund I established has helped dozens of elderly people protect their assets from greedy relatives. We work with law enforcement to set up stings like the one that caught Kyle. It turns out there are a lot of Kyles out there, and most elderly victims don't have daughters willing to involve the FBI. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty for setting up my stepbrother. Then I remember all the times I found Mom crying after he'd stolen from her again, all the family heirlooms that went missing, all the nights she stayed up worried about what would happen when she was gone. Kyle thought he was bribing an executor to steal my inheritance. Instead, he was gift-wrapping evidence of his own crimes. Mom always said Kyle's greed would be his downfall. As usual, she was right. And somewhere I hope she's smiling, knowing that the daughter she chose protected the legacy she built, while the son she inherited destroyed himself trying to steal it.